Today we're on episode 24 of my Dork Cast. It's crazy they're still allowing me to do this. I can't believe they haven't shut me down for some reason. We're going to be talking today how you could streamline the governance of your Qlik Cloud tenant. My guest today is a very interesting guy who reached out to me after a recent Dork Cast and said, "Do you want me to show you how I run my company's finances?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh. This is going to be a lesson in Excel. We're going to be looking at some crazy V lookup, X lookup, Y lookups, everything of data in Excel." I was like, "Oh my gosh!" But sure, he reached out to me. Why not? Well, it turned out to be a phenomenal conversation. As you can see his name there, if I were to just say Henri Ruffin, you might think he could be in Georgia with me. He's down here in Gainesville, Georgia, maybe. But if I were to say, "Bonjour, Henri," you might guess where my guest is from. Well, as I looked up his LinkedIn profile, which is there for you to have, I know you're multitaskers. Feel free to go out and connect with him right now while you're enjoying your popcorn, your drink, your lunch, whatever it is you're doing while you're watching this. And I saw that he was the financial controller for the organization. Thought, man, this is going to be deep. I'm not a finance guy, but sure, it sounds interesting. Well, it turned out that he launched that financial controller position into, look at the top, the head of data and analytics. That's something that you don't see very often. So, bonjour, Henri. It is a pleasure to have you here. And please share just a little bit about that path. How did you go from a financial controller to the head of analytics? That doesn't make sense to most people. Usually business people just mind their own business and stay in the business. You didn't do that.
Yes. Hi, Dalton. Thank you for having me today. It's a real pleasure. Yes, this is actually quite a crazy story. I joined radio in 2012 as a financial controller. At the time, I was just in charge of, producing dashboards, and I was in charge of the financial consolidation platform. And I cannot really tell you what happened. I think I have always been the finance guy who's been in charge of making crazy dashboards in Excel up until the day I decided we needed something else. I decided that Excel was no longer the solution. And more importantly, I I found out that so many people spend too much time trying to set up dashboards in Excel without having the right knowledge to do so. So I wanted to do something for pretty much everybody in the company, and not just for finance. I wanted to come up with something that would be strong enough for anybody to access the data and being able to see that data in a great dashboard that would be governed in the way the data will be flown into. And that is exactly what we've done. We've started in 2018 a project of replacing all the BI platforms we've had at Radio, and we've done it ourselves, the financial guys. And this is how it got started. Just us trying to understand how Qlik works and taking the data from where it was into Qlik and setting up a data pipeline that we have been using since then. And it's been just a great adventure. Everybody at Radio loves Qlik. Everybody at Radio is using Qlik. And it's been a finance project made by finance guy in the first place. Now IT is involved, but at the time it was just us.
That's fantastic. And what he showed me was unbelievable. It is the entire process: budgeting, planning, consolidation, all of the things that it takes to run an organization. And think of all of the other tools that you would use. It was all done in Qlik. Now, here's the crazy thing. If that wasn't crazy enough, that's not even what we're talking about today. Because
no, it isn't.
no, we're talking about the governance of your Qlik Cloud tenant. Because what Henri showed me was that after getting all of it built, when you think about what it takes to decentralize your development and have so many other users in the system, in the good old days, an administrator just, I'm going to add a user, I'm going to say that the app needs to get reloaded after the other app, and I'm done administrating. There's more to administration because of the types of roles that more people can play in Qlik Sense, and then even more roles in Qlik Sense Cloud. And what Henri has created is an incredible system to do that management for you. And so you're going to share those things, but this isn't even the first time today you've shared this, is it?
It is not, because since I've been talking about this, more and more people come to me asking for, separate meetings. So I had to, organize a separate webinar. We've done this in France with customers who wanted to set up their migration, talk about the ongoing migration. So we've done a webinar discussing all the topics related to the migration, and in particular, how you manage to govern the platform, help people getting embarked, and making sure that your cloud tenant is going to provide the security you expect when you come from a Qlik Sense enterprise world.
Nice.
People are very attached to the QMC and their Qlik enterprise platform. They want to have the same things. So we've got so many questions about how the security is being implemented in Qlik Cloud. How do you make sure that the onboarding process of users is going to be smooth and seamless? This is actually what we're going to talk about today.
Nice. Now, and I only brought that up because in case you happen to slip into your French for explaining something, since you just got off of a webinar to do that with the French Qlik user group, I wanted everybody to understand why you might all of a sudden start speaking French in the middle of the conversation.
No, so. I will try to do my best and keep it in English.
All right, fantastic.
Maybe with a few mistakes, but if that's okay with you,
that is more than fine with me. If you make less mistakes than I do, that would be not so shocking, because that happens a lot. Go ahead and let's go ahead and start sharing your screen. Okay. And then if you could kind of frame what the thought process was, because again, you've come from the background, everything was done in Excel, and dozens of other systems. You encapsulated and figured out, hey, we need a more streamlined process where everybody can be involved. And you had done that for finance, and you've pretty much done that same thing for governance now. Yes. So let's go ahead and if you can find your share screen. And so now kind of acclimate us to this. So you are in Qlik Sense right now. And
Qlik Sense Cloud.
Streamline governance of Sense inside of Sense. Is that what you're telling us?
Yeah, more or less. What we found right at the beginning of the process. So we didn't know where we would be going with Qlik Cloud. I mean, we were like any other customers trying to find out how Qlik Cloud works, and more importantly, we were very concerned about the security and the way we will be designing the spaces and everything. I specifically remember being completely lost the first time I heard about the difference between managed space, shared space, and the collection. I was like, okay, what's the difference between the collection and the space? And I really had to dive in and try and play with the platform to understand how powerful the combination can be. Because at first it seems like it's the same, but at the end of the day, it's not. It's definitely not. The space is specifically designed to serve the security, whereas the collection is actually there to make it like an additional layer that is going to serve the business perspective. So it's more like organizing all your content, apps, and everything inside your Qlik Cloud tenants in a way that will serve the business, regardless of what has been designed and implemented in terms of security. This was for me the groundbreaking change I understood. And this is where we got started and say, okay, now that we know this, how can we move forward with the migration? We have to see what is the difference between Qlik Sense Enterprise and Qlik Sense
Mm-hmm.
Cloud. And we have to keep monitoring the differences because the streams and the spaces are not going to be the same.
Right.
So what we've done is we started to replicate our ClickSauce environment inside Qlik Sense Enterprise. And you might ask, how so? So what we've done, we've designed an application. In that application, we could find all the application and the streams we had in Qlik Sense Enterprise, alongside with all the users and their access. So we could see who has access to what. This is basically what we've done. And then
Yep.
we started to assign these applications to spaces in Qlik Sense Enterprise. Of course,
Okay.
we're talking about basic assignments. And so it was possible from there to design from within the Qlik Sense Enterprise the targets. This was important for us because we wanted to see what the platform would be looking like before even doing it. So we have emulated, simulated, call it the way you want it,
Okay.
our Qlik Sense Cloud platform in Qlik Sense Enterprise. And at the end of the day, it was possible for any group of users or any specific users to see what streams it has access to, what application he had access to, and the same in Qlik Sense Cloud at the same time, what spaces, what applications, so that we could monitor exactly the differences, the potential differences before even doing anything. And then, just then, once this work was done, we would be using Qlik Cloud automation to pull that emulation from Qlik Sense Enterprise into Qlik Cloud so that once the spaces are there, they will be populated with the exact same access rights as we have designed in Qlik Sense Enterprise, meaning the groups, the user groups will be assigned to the right spaces with the right roles, and we will know for sure that we would have exactly what we wanted to have even before we get started with the migration of the application.
Now, how did you? That's incredible. And if you could have guessed at the beginning, a financial controller who said we're not using Excel probably thinks differently than everybody else, which I absolutely dug. How did you know what security people had in Qlik Sense Enterprise? Did you keep a whole bunch of Excel sheets with their permissions?
No, we use write back technology right from the start. Qlik has gone very deep at Radial also because we have implemented write back technology in Qlik Sense Enterprise first and now Qlik Sense Cloud.
Okay.
This is being used. So we've talked briefly about what we do in finance, and you've said something about planning, and this is right. We do planning in Qlik Sense Enterprise, leveraging the power of Qlik through EPM capabilities delivered by an extension that is specifically designed for planning applications. It's just awesome. It works just so much better than any EPM platform on the market. And I know what I'm talking about because I have implemented some of them.
Yeah, and you were in that market with those other solutions. And which write back extension are you using?
We're using Bright. This is a product developed by the guys, German guys at Inform. We choose Bright over the competition because of the EPM capabilities. But you can do basically what you can do with the other write back technology. And you'll see in the demonstration, I am actually using write back pretty much everywhere to administrate, manage the platform. But of course, what I'm about to show you today can be achieved in a bit less automated fashion through external spreadsheets or anything you could use outside of the Qlik world. It's just that with right back, it's so much more powerful. So yeah,
But you
when we
just
said
having a background in finance and planning, you just saw the governance tasks as a planning task, which I think is
yeah,
genius.
we could say that, but the truth is that I have been, you know, I have multiple hats at radio.
Mhm.
I am managing planning for finance and for other departments as well. I have been managing the platform, the Qlik Sense platform as well. So being a
Nice.
developer, a customer, but also the administrator of the platform makes it easier for me to understand the every side of it,
Okay.
so to speak. So that's why, despite my background, I am very much interested in the governance of the Qlik platform,
Yep.
because I want to make it easier for me as well. It's not just for everybody else. It's also, okay, I want to have more time for value addition, and
Yeah.
obviously managing the platform is something that needs to be done properly,
Nice.
but it's not generating any value outside of what it does. So I
Right.
needed it to be like
Okay.
perfect right from the start. That's why I've done it.
So which one are we going to get started with? Are we going to start looking at the tenant manager?
We could be talking about the tenant manager. It's actually a nice one. It's the application we are using to assign access rights to users. So the first
Okay.
sheet, we won't be talking much about this one. It's just for us to monitor the role assignments, which can be assigned to groups,
Okay.
direct access, everyone, which would be a Radio Europe, and also when you you share an app to a specific user. So you can actually see all of that in this. At the moment, since we are doing the migration, this has been um, we have taken out the groups for the moment, except the admin group. So let me just show you that. I will just
Okay.
take off everything but admin. So you can see admin has been assigned to actually all the spaces we have
Okay.
implemented so far, with the different access rights
Okay.
that comes with it. So this is actually done manually, as you would in Qlik Sense Cloud, when you go in the hub and you want to assign a group to a specific space.
Yep.
Admin is the only one that is manually assigned.
Okay.
But if you want to do this through an automation, which is what we do, you can see there is a KPI here that says 41. This is because we have 41 assignments waiting.
Okay.
These are the ones I have done for testing the security, and it worked
Right.
just fine. So that's why
Okay.
in that table, active is off for all these groups. But basically, we're using write back to assign to a space a group with a specific role. And of course, you can accumulate the roles. These are the
Yep.
roles that you can assign to
Okay.
a group or a user. We are talking only about group here, because group management is basically what we need. The group is being provided through the IDP. Each user has a set of groups, and
Yep.
these groups will be then assigned to set a set of spaces. And for
Okay.
each spaces, you will assign a specific role, which will tell you what you can do in that specific space. But we needed to do this in a central fashion, because we wanted to keep control over group assignment. I'm talking only about group, because when you say someone has the rights to assign, to manage the rights in a specific space, that person can manage both user access and group access. We
Right.
wanted to keep control over that. So what happens
Okay.
here is everything that is done in this table will be then applied through an automation. By clicking on this, this will assign in each of these spaces the group with the role accordingly. And it will
Okay.
also take off everything that is not in that table. So if someone who has the right starts to change the group assignment in the specific space without changing anything that is happening here, I will get an alert. The application is reloaded automatically every hour. So every hour, if there is something wrong, I should know.
Okay.
And
So hang on a second.
yeah,
So normally people would think of going to the management console, which is a separate thing in the cloud,
Yeah.
And they would be doing these types of things individually, one by one, manually. And what you've done is you've given them the ability to capture it all. And I'm assuming you're going to click the button. It's going to call Qlik Application Automation to go do what could be 1, 5, 10. But you've even gone beyond that. This is truly governed because not only are you automating it, I think you're saying when you reload that app, if any of the security that's in there in the cloud was done manually, not through the app, you get an alert.
Yeah, exactly. Unless it's a user. Unless it's a user. We
Okay.
allow users, we want to let some people who have been identified the possibility, if they have the role in a specific space,
Right.
to assign several users manually if they want to. This is something we want to authorize. What we don't want to authorize is the ability to change group assignments. And that is exactly what this automation does. It checks out what's been done in the hub against what's been done in the table. But there is
how
more
does it do that? What are you doing behind? What magic are you implementing behind the scenes that checks security?
That table is actually saved. It's a SQL database that is behind, but it's saved in a QVD, and that QVD is run against the information from the API in Qlik that does tell you.
And that's where I was going, Henri. You've utilized the APIs that Qlik provides to actually read the security. And most people will be thinking, why in the world do I need an API to go read my security? I'll just go to the console and do what I need to do and find any one of 50,000 different settings for 50,000 different groups and 50,000 different people. And you've utilized the APIs to pull that back in and try to create here's what is and here's what should be for the groups. And I like the fact that you've broken out and said, hey, in this decentralized world, I need multiple people to be administrators. I'll let Dalton manage the users for the space that Dalton's allowed to manage on a user by user basis. I'm going to retain control for the mass group security.
It's exactly that. And there is
really
a
cool
cherry on the cake.
Okay.
It's think about migration, how hard it can be, how tough, how much work there is to be done. If you do what I told you at the beginning about the migration app in Qlik Sense Enterprise, where you will be monitoring the differences between both platforms, and you try to adjust all the time the assignments that you think would be correct. And at some point you say, okay, what we have emulated through an external spreadsheet of what Qlik Cloud should be looking like. This is what I want. This is what I want. Okay, you're sure? Yes, we've checked out everything in Qlik Sense Enterprise. It matches the security rules we have implemented so far in Qlik Sense Enterprise. It looks even better because we have even corrected a few things which were not absolutely perfect in Qlik Sense Enterprise. And the picture we've designed in Qlik Sense Enterprise of what Qlik SaaS should be looking like, we like it. We want it to be implemented. Okay, let me take that file and I will just upload it through the automation. And what the automation will do, it will create all the spaces and it will assign the groups accordingly with the right role and everything. And your platform will be ready to go for all your users and all the security you have designed accordingly to what you have specifically designed in your emulation application on premise. This is what it does. It takes it takes a template somehow that you've designed outside of Qlik Cloud, and it will pre-generate your environment, which is basically a go-to, and say, okay, now I can work. I just have to take care of migrating the application, extraction, transformation apps, and business application, and that's it.
Nice.
And the migration doesn't look that complicated anymore. It's just
suddenly you've taken the scary out of scary.
Exactly.
I like it. All right. And so what was the next application you had out there? Because I want to save the section access one. That one we're going to save for
Yes.
last.
But
But what's one
if
of
I
these
may,
other governance apps that we've got here?
yes, if I may, okay,
Sure.
let's just go back.
It's a timing, yeah. We've all been there, done that when you've got multiple tabs for demos.
Yeah, it's always like this. So I just wanted to talk about the difference between the shared spaces and the managed spaces, the way we
Fantastic.
started with it. Yeah, because we've decided not to have too many shared spaces. This is where
Okay.
we will be collaborating with all the developers and everything. So we always have an extraction a space and a transformation space, and then we have a deployment space where you will find all the applications you will be publishing to the managed space.
Fantastic. So hang on a second. So let's back up because this is worth talking about. Above
Mhm.
that one, there you have a personal space.
Which I
Um,
never use.
so in Qlik Cloud, in Qlik Sense Enterprise, you had the different security permissions that were you could manage to say Dalton is allowed to create his own apps, Henri isn't, and that
Mhm.
was a general thing. You had a my workspace. In the cloud, we call that your personal space. Clearly, it's personal. Henri isn't
Yeah,
changing the code in Dalton's personal space.
no.
Dalton isn't seeing the apps or changing the code in Henri's. Um, but I like this extract and this transformation space because this is recently. If you watch all the Qlik postings all the time, you've seen that recently we've helped people identify that that's a role in and of itself, right? We have extraction apps that say, go get me the data, go get it in a raw format so that I can handle um, incremental loading and merged records. So if I'm doing change processing with our data integration products, we can look at those change tables and say, let's go merge those 15 records into the 18 million that I already have. And we call those extractions. Its
Mhm.
purpose is just get me the data. And then there's usually a second layer, which we say, hey, go get that data. Now, I want to do some transformations and make it a Qlik appropriate model. Whether it's, hey, I'm going to, for performance reasons, use a whole bunch of flags that use a dual data type internally, whether it's changing names and aliasing things. We do that a lot for our SAP data. We've
Mhm.
got field names in SAP that are 5-character German shorthand code. That's not what we want to have when we're doing a search in Qlik Sense. And so we can transform and do aliases. You can concatenate fields. You can denormalize data, whatever transformations T you think of in ETL, it's possible to do. And so what you've actually done is kind of that same process. We've said, hey man, people are getting it's getting kind of convoluted for people in spaces because there's extraction apps and transformation apps and the visual apps. And you've simply created spaces to say this space is going to be used for our extractions. And there
Yeah,
could be developers, and I want people to get this because this is really important. You could have a role where you say, Hugo, your job is literally just go extract data. You're a really good data guy. Go get that data for me from wherever it needs to be, land it in QVDs. You're fantastic with incremental loads. You understand the data. You don't need to worry your pretty little self with how I'm going to use this in an application down the road, right? I don't even need that person talking to my business people. The transformation roles need to be data architects that may not care what my source system was, but they do need to understand how to take that data once they have it in existing QVDs and handle the business rules. They don't have to be designers of apps, right? Hey, I'm going to talk to David and ask him, what business rules there are. I'll apply those business rules inside of the code, or handle those types of transformations, concatenation of keys, make sure that the data from the raw system and even if it was coming from warehouses or Excel sheets or cocktail napkins, gets transformed into what we need for the analytic solution. And then I'm assuming your other spaces are the visual apps.
More or less, we have some more options. So we have a specific for governance application that we wanted to have separately. Development is where you will be preparing your applications before they got deployed. So we need to have a separate space just for that. And this is also where we will find all the connections, because we are very centralized in that way. Not for everything, but most of the connection will be fine here. Extraction is exactly what you said, and transformation as well. In case we need to share an app with someone for a control or review before it's being published, we use the recette space, which is just for testing, basically. But this is where we will be,
So you would develop it in a development space, and then that process that all of coding for history, as far as I know it, and I'm old, has been. You develop it and you move it to test. And we've actually, within the spaces, when you right-click on an app, you can say, I'm ready to move this from development to the test space.
You can move it, or you can publish it. Once you're done, you move it to the right space where it should be, and then you can publish it. And the thing is, we wanted to make sure that we're not going to lose anything in case somebody does a mistake, like you suppressing an app or suppressing something that should not be deleted. So we have an automation that just listens. It listens to whatever is happening in Qlik Cloud, and every time an application is being published, the application is backed up in GitLab, so that even the extraction and transformation application that we find in the shared spaces here, they have their double here in the published spaces, because these applications need to be backed up in case something goes wrong. But more importantly, that means that these applications, this is where we will have the schedule and triggers, task chaining and everything to have the data flow running, and you can still be working in the extraction transformation to set up your data model the way it should be. Same for the application. We have a deployment space where we put all the applications except for HR, which are separated because of security reason. We don't want to show this.
And that makes sense.
So we have like a separate deployment space that is just me, actually, because I'm the one doing this. But the deployment here will be where you will find all the applications that are then published in all these spaces, managed spaces. And you can see the migration is not done, and we already have lots of spaces. And you might think this is maybe too much because it's going to grow. But again, this is a security question behind, because you cannot per se do security by application. But what you can do is actually divide all your spaces into subspaces, so that you make sure that each topic that needs to be addressed separately from a security perspective offers exactly the security you want to. Because at the end of the day, if you now look at the collection, let's take this one, for example, which covers pricing and margin. You will find sets of applications, but these 5 applications, they come from 4 different spaces. First one is gross margin, second one is variable margin, pricing, and sales performance. From a business perspective,
and let's not skip over that too fast either. One of the other things that is available for you in Qlik Cloud is collections. And most people, when they look at a collection, they think favorites, right?
It's not.
Individually you can use favorites. Woo, that's a collection. It's kind of genius the way that the cloud is actually laid out to help you easier security and governance, in that you've created collections then for the same types of people that use the same types of apps, even though they could be coming from different spaces. And so
Exactly.
the user's view might not be the space, but instead the collection.
That has always been a problem in Qlik Sense Enterprise, and of course you could do pretty much everything you wanted because of the security layer, all the security rules with the everything you could do basically in the QMC was there to help you achieve exactly the security you wanted. But at the end of the day, you only had the stream from a presentation perspective. So the
Yep.
stream was kind of a mix of security and business layer at the same time. So I think Qlik nailed it when they've decided to separate the two and say, okay, the spaces, they're here, like a folder hierarchy,
Yeah.
in which you will find your security just like you would in Windows.
Yep.
And then, or in Google Drive or any folder system. And then you've got the collection, which is a layer on top of this to
Yep.
present it in a more accurate, I don't know how to phrase that correctly. It's just that it makes more sense from a business perspective. It's a business layer, whereas
Well, and I think it
space is a
fits.
security
So,
layer.
yep. And as we talk of governance, this is kind of a, if you're out there, good for you. This will be hashtag DevOps, right? This is development operations. But this concept of collections is a data management principle, right? There's data collections of things that fit the space. They could be in different warehouses, different marts, but they belong to finance, or they belong to pricing, or they belong to HR. And we've got that same concept already for data, right?
And an object can belong to several collections at the same time if you wanted to. It's possible.
Yep. Okay.
So when we go back to our spaces here, we don't care about having many spaces. It doesn't matter. Actually, it's no longer a problem. It's even better because if you're looking for something specific, sometime I remember specifically having that issue in Qlik Sense Enterprise where you would have to remember where the application was because some stream were just too large to have pretty much everything. So we wanted to avoid having too many streams to lose the user, but the user had to remember where to find the application, in which stream the application was to be found. Here, it's no longer the case. If you really want to use the catalog, which I think is more for the developers and the expert users, then you look up for the space that makes sense, because it's more accurate in the way it's been organized. And then again, the end user, they won't be using the catalog as much. I think they will be more using the collections.
I think that's genius, Henri. I really do. I think that's genius. There's some developer at Qlik who's like, finally somebody's taking advantage of collections, which I think is phenomenal.
And this is just the beginning. We're not done with the migration. You've seen a few examples, and it's just for me to test. And we will be having a discussion about how we will set up all these collection. And we've seen also some taste from Qlik where they will be revisiting the hub to make it better for end users who have less experience than developers. And I think in the end, what Qlik Cloud was at the beginning, which is maybe a bit too complicated, it's really going in the right direction in a way that Qlik is going to be offering all the capabilities it has while revisiting and offering a better user experience that is very simplified experience for the average Joe who's using Qlik and doesn't have to know everything about the platform. So I'm very happy to report that it's going in the right direction, and it's actually looking very, very good. Very, very good.
Nice.
So
nice.
Let's just wait for Qlik to deliver the next features in this region. But for now, as it is, it's already very satisfying. So you can set up the hub and put the collections that you want to. So when you click on set up your welcome page, you can click on the public and personal collection you want to have. And we are not talking here about spaces anymore. We're just talking about topics. Like,
Yep.
okay, we want
Yeah.
sales, margin, business pipeline, finance, and everything that is going to come in the future. And then I have my apps, and the security is there. It's
Yes.
implementing application by application through the spaces. So do as many spaces as you want. It doesn't matter.
Nice.
So
Very
let's go back. If you want me to, we can now
I
talk
do.
about
Let's take
section access.
no. Let's talk the task manager.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah. This one, this was genius, and you kind of skipped over that before. Like, oh, you just handle
You're
all
right.
this
You're right.
chaining. And people are like, but there is no chaining like there was in ClickView. What happened to the chaining, right? Not only do you do chaining, I think you do chaining in a genius way. Let's definitely take a look at that app. And for those of you who may not have heard the word chaining means before I run this application, I've got to run that application, which had to run before that application, and this one has to run. Or you can look the other way. After I go get new data, and then I need to transform that new data. Then I got to go run this app and this app and this app in a specified order. And I think you handle that brilliantly. Go ahead and let's show that app.
This was like maybe the biggest item that worried me in the first place when we got Qlik Cloud, because I was surprised to see that there was no task chaining management capabilities in the management console. And I looked pretty much everywhere, and I was like, okay, there's nothing. I was happy to see, okay, now we can plan the schedule right away in the hub. We don't have to go in the management console as we had to do in Qlik Cloud, Qlik Sense Enterprise. Sorry. And this was a good news. And the new schedule is actually far better than the one we had in Qlik Sense Enterprise. So I was happy to see that. But then I was like, okay, but how can I chain? How can I chain now my
and so you're saying you weren't happy with, okay, run that app. It takes 8.2 minutes to run. So start the next app at 10 minutes after the hour. Like, that's not chaining.
That's not chaining. I wasn't happy with that. And then I heard about the automation that does this. But it got me worried because the automation doesn't show exactly what it does. So you have to set it up, and then you have to use the reload application, which is good. And it was an option. But I was like, okay, but given all the reloads we have every day and the limitation of 5,000 automation a month, I got worried that we will go overboard, and more importantly, we will be using automation for just that. And I thought, okay, automation has to be used for something else. It has to bring value to the company. So I want to keep the RAN for something useful, not for something that should be done natively in the platform. Nice. So I started looking up in the internet if there was a way to call the engine, so more precisely the scheduler, to trigger a reload. And actually there is. You can just call an API and do exactly what the automation will do, but from within the script. Within the script. And when you do so, you achieve the exact same result than the automation would, but without consuming any RAM. So what we did is we've designed a single application. And again, we are using write-back technology just to set up the trigger phase. So let's say we want to reload an extraction application. Let's make it simple. We will select the space. And we're using the associative engine, so it will just provide me the application inside that space. So for instance, the customer repository, which will incidentally provide me the application ID related to that specific application. So that's my trigger application, right?
Right.
Now we need to, we need to have a transformation app, for instance. It could be anything else. It doesn't matter. It's just for demonstration purposes.
Yep.
So transformation app, and let's say we want to have the customer transformation application. So it's another one, and that's it. By clicking here, I will save that, which will reload the application. And behind the scene, a QVD will be updated with that specific information. Okay, So
And
the way
so hang on. Let's get into this. So you're collecting a form here that's saying, when this one finishes, I want you to go run this one. So you're creating that chain. And what you're saying is that information is actually then written to a QVD.
a single QBD in the governance space, which
Right.
we will
Okay.
be leveraging after. I will come
And
to
then
that.
there's then what you mentioned before. This is a new concept for others. You load that QVD, which says do this first, then do that, then do this, then do this, then do this. And as you're looping through that, you're calling an API that says, now go do this reload. Correct?
It's not being done here.
Not in this app, in a different app.
This application will just be saving the QVD.
Yeah, I understand. But
it's
that
table
the
right
scene,
there.
yeah. The actual running is done through another app that reads that QVD and calls the API based on what it sees, and it's obviously using some type of loop to do that.
Yes and no. It's actually, what we have is a template for the development of each application. And this is important because this will be the exact same story when we will be talking about the section.
Okay.
So what it does is we have a set of includes function here, which I will not go through for argument's sake.
So these are QVS type scripts.
Yes, it's just the code that needs to be unlocked to make sure that the application runs properly. And so if we look now at the variable here, we have this application, for instance, doesn't have a dependency. So it sets to 0. It's written in French, but it says, if one, we will look into the QVDs we've generated in this application.
Okay.
We will look for it. And if we find in the column trigger application ID, if we find the application ID, you have it here. There is a new function to get the application ID. I don't remember where we've done that, but it's basically what it does is it will be looking for the application ID of that specific application. And if this application ID is to be found in the trigger app ID, which is here, okay, it will just filter the few rows which are
triggered off of it.
And then it will say, okay, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 applications to reload.
Oh my gosh.
And the great thing is it's working with the application ID, so you can change the name of the application. You can even move the application from one space to another. As long as it's the same application, the ID remains the same. So you can do whatever you want from an administration perspective. It won't change a damn thing. But the other great thing about it, that's governance. So it's actually being executed at the end of the.
That's very cool.
It's actually going through this.
Yeah, and the heart of this was the fact that you said we've got a template that every other application, the applications are built from.
Yeah, you see, trigger app ID is equal to document name. So it's checking that the trigger app ID from the QVD file is actually the app ID. Once you have that, you know what reload app ID you should trigger, and there is somewhere a call for the API, which is stored in the include function.
And so every developer...
it will just tell the scheduler to do the thing, so it won't be affecting the reload of that application. It will just say, okay, I will send that information, I will call the scheduler, the Qlik scheduler, and the Qlik scheduler will do its thing. And it can be
nice.
If you want to take it out, if you say, okay, I want to do reload without taking this into account, you put here to 0. This application doesn't have the need to do a reload afterwards, but I wanted to show you what it looks like.
Very cool.
Sorry.
Nice. And so the other thing key about this, and you said it's a subtle point, but it is kind of an important point. I was thinking there's one application that goes through and reads everything. It's actually set up because of your template. Not every developer even needs to know how to call our APIs, because that's just done through your template. So I'm just a standard Qlik guy. I don't know APIs. I don't have to. The template handles that. But if I manually go reload an app and there's 5 dependencies, those dependencies are going to get called.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
Very cool.
And I can show you what it looks like. Sorry, I have a...
And you don't actually have to. Oh, okay.
Sorry. Let's just have a look at this one. This is the one for sales.
Okay. And now what is this beautiful infinity form here? Is this an extension?
Yes, it's an extension. It's the flow extension from Infinity. So it's a competitor from Inform.
They're not competitors. They're both partners of Qlik, but both
exactly.
We
you
love
could say that. But for write back, they do sell both a write back extension. Write is different in the way that they have planning capabilities. Infinity is also different because they do also.
But this is neat. You're using this infinity flow diagram to show that hierarchy of this gets loaded, then this gets loaded, then these things get loaded.
I like this one because you could be doing this with a native extension of Qlik. There is a organigram chart available natively in Qlik, which you could use to achieve more or less the same presentation. It's just that with this one, I can provide much more information. It's just looking better. So right now we can see.
The other thing that I see you using here is something I've used this many times and use it for a big thing we did for a giant data partner to show query flow and query statistics, but showing those icons, those look like the same icons you use in the different spaces for the app. So that I think that's a brilliant way to tie. Hey, I'm assuming that as developers you get used to seeing those images.
Yeah,
and that's a really easy way. Hey, I can know right away what space this likely is just by looking at that image, which I think is important.
Yeah, I can show you what I'm using. It's actually a thumbnail generated. It's been done by some company. I don't know these guys, but their thumbnail generator is actually great, and I need to have something that is standardized.
Yep.
I don't know why it's not loading. Okay. There you go. So it's actually great. You can choose the way you set it up, and you look for icon, you type your text, you download it, and that way we're sure that everybody is using the same type of thumbnail in Qlik Cloud. It's nothing, but it's looking so good in the end.
It's simple but effective.
Exactly.
Right.
As it should.
It is very effective. Now I like to use generative AI images like this data cathedral behind me right now, and I love to play. I'll often spend an hour playing with prompts in Midjourney to get an image, and I create these beautiful thumbnail images for my app because, of course, I'm just demoing one app. But when you're looking at an implementation of what could be thousands of applications.
Exactly.
You need something a little bit more consistent that's memorable. But what I love is that you use it not only for the app thumbnail, you're using that same thumbnail here inside of the flow.
It's actually the application thumbnail that's being called through the API. So it's
I think that's brilliant, man. I think it helps tie together because that you've zoomed in on that flow. That flow could be pretty big, and I could immediately, I should see a blue triangle somewhere, and I'm not seeing any triangle. Why isn't the triangle apps?
Exactly, but we do have a separate application just for that topic. I don't think we will get to talk about it because we could be showing so much more. That's something we have to be focused. Just to finish on the reload task manager, I just wanted to show you that flow because it's just a demonstration of how well that works. And just so you know, it's been implemented since July. We haven't had any problems running every day, so it's quite it's actually working even better than what we have. And we have had more problem with Qlik Sense Enterprise scheduler than we had with Qlik Sense SaaS using that
Nice.
specific setup. So here we have our extraction application, and for some reason we do need to have two applications to reload successively. The first one is here, and then there is the second one, and then we've got lots of different applications, business application, and a new transformation application specific to the budget, which would be then be reloading all this. So we know exactly what has been reloaded and when, whether it's been executed. If there was a problem, one would be showed in red. It's actually showing. So this is task chaining with a visual representation of what it actually does. This is something we didn't have in Qlik Sense Enterprise. When you would be looking at the management console, you just had a list. And of course, one could argue that you could have complex conditions implemented when reloading an app. I mean, if you want to, you can. It's just a question of how complex the QBD you will generate out of this application should be.
Yep.
We didn't have the need at Radial, but if you wanted, you could use some flags to say, okay, I need that application and that application to be to have run before you could launch this one. So you could set up more complex rule behind the scene if you wanted to. We went simple with just that application needs to trigger a list of
But I love the fact that the platform that you created, as complicated as we might think of, you're going to change it one time in your template. That's it. Right? Once you've changed it one time in the template, everything else is going to be able to take advantage of that. And then you just change what you capture for it in the form. You'd add some other options there, this app and this app and this app, whatever you do. But I love that it's set up.
And you know the last thing, something I didn't show you last time because this is an improvement I have done in between. You can now look for the reload strategy, meaning that if you have some applications that are first reloaded by an automation, you can say, okay, this one. Okay, so HFM data is actually not being started with a schedule. It's being started by an automation, which will then trigger these three applications. We can do the same. So Chronos is obviously a schedule. Yep. You can look for hub if there is an application that is for now being executed through the hub. And you've got external for API as well. So
nice.
You can look for each flow. Each flow is actually being visible here because we're using the hierarchy function to group each flow and have then the ability to look for a specific flow. And you can look for the specific reload strategy. So that sheet all alone is actually enough for administrating the whole reload strategy of the platform.
That's crary.
But you know what? We can go even further than this. And you know what I'm going to talk about, right? This right here. It's actually an addition to the reload strategy. Let me just reconnect because I lost the connection. If you do remember when I showed you this last time we talked about this,
and I have make sure you don't forget like I will. Show me this.
No problem. If I don't know if that's the case in many companies, but I do spend a lot of time going back and forth inside the script of application to reload some part of the script using variables to just launch some part of the script. And this is sometimes a bit boring, especially if you want somebody else to do it, because it's not that complicated. You want to reload specifically a section of the script, but not everything. You want to reload it, but you don't want to trigger all the task behind. So the task chain, you want to cut it out, and that is a problem if you want to let somebody else do it. So I came up with this idea of using an application, so using the dashboard to make and apply selection, then which will be then passed into the variables using an automation. So what it does is, for instance, let's say we want to reload the budget for the past 5 years.
Right.
I will say I'm not interested in the reporting. I'm not interested in IFRS, but I am interested in the budgets. And then I
Okay.
will say, okay, the 5 past years. I will not do it right now because it
Okay.
doesn't make sense to just
Yeah.
execute the script. But what it will do is just by clicking on this button, this will trigger an automation, which will then go inside the script and paste basically these arguments as variable before executing the script, which means that I can change the very parameters of a specific application
Yep.
before it's being reloaded. And so if we go back to that right here, and we take
Yep.
again the sales fact,
Yep.
we make this bigger once again. If I want to change and reload specific subset of the script for a specific part of the flow and not everything,
Wow.
I can do this using just that by setting up a dashboard specifically designed
Yep.
to manage and master my reload strategy inside Qlik Cloud. And that is
Nice.
something you cannot do in Qlik Sense Enterprise. And it's not that complicated at all to set up. The automation is actually it's fairly simple.
Nice. Because there's a API for scripting, and it's all taken care of in the automation.
Yeah. It's basically you take the variables and you remember that when you do an automation, you have the option to capture the selections
Yep.
inside that application. So it's quite common to do that.
Yep.
These selection will then be assigned to variables, and these variables will then be saved as variable inside the script by using the save.
And the
As
nice thing is that
and then reload. That's it.
And it's consistent because every app started from the same template that had the same definitions, that has the same functionality all the way down through. So I think that's really brilliant, coming up with that kind of strategy, to say start with this scripting template, then the developers don't have to know, and in this case they wouldn't even have to know necessarily where to get started. Change these variables, will change the script itself, and then when it gets run, it's gonna then something kicks off that run. Nice. Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and go to the section access one, because I think this is one that normally this is something that scares a lot of people.
Yeah. So you remember me telling you about having a centralized way to handle the section access.
Yep.
This is achieved in 2 steps. One, having a single application to manage all of your section access from within that specific application. And we will go inside that application to do that. Second, it goes back to the same thing.
The script.
The script of each application, we have a template, and the template is leveraging the exact same bit of code every time to turn on the section access and apply the section access that has been assigned specifically to that application.
And if you go down to line 26 there.
Yes, there is a call section access.
Now, and that's not a Qlik function. That's something you've got in your include scripts.
Yeah, but
that
it's
you
script
did
as well.
Say, hey, let me make this easier for what in a centralized world, we had maybe one person who could do this kind of code on an app by app basis. And you said, hey, we're going to have a lot more developers. We need to make this easier. And so the template already includes it. I don't have to think about section access as a developer of a new app, because it's already taken care of in the template for me, and it's governed. I love it. Okay, so let's go back to that section. Let's go back to the app that then controls and sets all that.
Okay, so I will just open this one, which is the section access application. So section access manager, we call it that way.
Okay, yep.
And before we get started with the names here, let's just go to the creation of the section access. Because before we even get to assign a user to a specific section access, we need to design the template of the section access, saying, okay, what is the name of the section access, and what are the attributes that you want to leverage with that section access.
Okay.
So we went with up to 5 attributes, but you could
Okay.
be going beyond. I just think that 5 attributes for section access is already a lot. But again, it doesn't matter. If you wanted to have more than 5, you could do it. And we can change that. Just that for now, it's enough for us.
Okay.
So the first step is to design the section access. I will not be creating a new one. I will just guide you through the process so that you understand how it goes. So right here, you would just be providing a section access name, like you would be saying, okay, this is the one for P&L finance, whatever you want. So it doesn't matter. You give a name. Then you set up the list of attributes. So you look for a name. So we have a specific list of attributes, which is very limited so far because the migration is still an ongoing process, and this will grow, obviously. And behind each attribute, we have in the script the detailed list, the latest status of that specific dimension, making sure that if we call customer groups, we know for sure we have all the customer groups value possible there is. Because the last thing you want is to lose one on the way. And that's the same for each and every attribute you will see here. So then what you set up a name, you put one attribute at least, a second, a third, a fourth, a fifth. You don't have to use all of them. It really depends on how what your section access is going to be. But basically, you just design your section access. Then, once you're done with that, you will be selecting the application you want to apply the section access to. And of course, you can apply the section access to several applications. It just has to be done one by one. So if you look here, you see there is a small locker here being showing that section access has been implemented with these applications. So if I select the first one, which is the daily sales report, the most obvious application in the world, when we look at the assignments, we will see, okay, for that application, well, we have the ID right here. This is the section access that has been selected. If I click here, I can change the section access that is applied to that specific application. So we've got to choose between daily sales report, GAM report, and monthly sales report for now. And yeah, we can see the attributes. They've been selected. We cannot change them because these are coming from the template that has been designed. We can still add some comments if we want to. It doesn't matter. It's just in case we want to give some explanation as to why we've chosen this section access. In case we don't need to have a comment. But basically, step 1, set the template. Step 2, assign the template to applications. So let's just forget about this one and look at that table right here. We can see in the first column the name of the section access.
Right.
Assigned to the application and the attributes that the section access implies. So the daily sales report is actually applied to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 applications. I should set a KPI here to make that simple to read. But basically, yeah, the daily sales report is being applied to 9 applications with these exact set of attributes, whereas the GAM report just have 1 GAM, and the monthly sales report has 4. And then it's a section access as you would think, which means that you've got here to select between all section access, daily sales report. You can find here with the names, and you can see in the table, I can say, okay, Henri Ruffin is here. I will change his rights and say, okay, he is now accessing multi-contact business unit for the French agency. Let's select France.
Wow.
And of course, all that information is also matched up with our HR information system, so we know where the person is, what's his job. So it's actually helping you in the design of the section access. Because if you don't know who that person is, it's actually much harder to anticipate. So having the
and I like that, and I think that was important. You've tied it into HR, so you know their role and who they are versus just it's Dalton Ruhr, it's Qlik Dork. It's not, you're looking at the roles. This person has this role. They should be allowed to do this.
Yeah. So if I change that and I save it, the daily sales report section access for Henri Ruffin will be updated with with these changes. And all the 9 applications we've talked about, when they
Yeah.
will be reloaded, they will be applying exactly that access rights, because the
Nice.
daily sales report section access has been assigned to 9 applications. And we can test it out. You know how? The daily sales report application, obviously, in the published space, is
Right.
leveraging the daily sales report section access. It makes sense because it's based basically on that application alone.
Sure.
Since this is the managed space version of that application for development
Right.
purpose, sorry, I can try and emulate the behavior of the published application by just taking this out and taking this in, providing the right application ID here, and click reload. And then I will see the section access implemented. So I can
Wow.
test it behaves in development mode without
Okay.
having to do anything else. Just now.
Wow.
So decentralized. And so now the next step will be for us to, let's go back here. The next step for us would be to set up a section access on top of the section access application, so that we can then decentralize the management of the section access to specific business users, saying, okay, you know what? You are in charge of everybody who belongs to the Qlik group key account manager, for instance, and they will be seeing all the key account managers.
Okay.
And I will be assigning to you the daily sales report and the monthly sales report, basically all the sales reports to you, and you will be managing this. And since we have alerts embedded in Qlik SaaS, it means that every time someone will be joining the platform, an alert can then be used to let you know if someone within your group of users need to have a section access. So you can, in advance, alert the few people who are actually managing the section access from a business perspective, and making sure that only the people who can provide that information are being warned and that they have an update to do. So this is actually not just centralizing the process of managing the section access, it's also automating the reminders and all the tasks, or everything that needs to be done around this, which cannot be done beforehand. For
Right.
instance, in the onboarding software you might have that is providing the information in the IDP system. It's just that it's very powerful just for this reason.
Nice. And I love that concept. So in Qlik Sense Enterprise, we would talk about role-based permissions, and you would set up security permissions that says, I'm going to allow Henri to have security permission for this stream. And so I could kind of decentralize my permissions. You've taken the concept of section access up even another notch and said, we're going to use that so that I could allow Dalton to control section access, but only for these apps or these spaces. And so I come into there. I do not have to go to the management council to do that. I don't have to be an administrator in that form. I just know that Bob is new and I need to control Bob's access. And so you've put your own section access on top of it. You're drinking your own Kool-Aid, using your own tool to even handle that, which I think is it's brilliant, man.
It's quite cool. So,
you've got some other applications out there. So I think like what happened in the French Qlik user group you just got done with prior to this. You're going to say, but I need to do the same thing. This is awesome sauce. I want this. I think our plan is to try to start creating some Qlik community posts to get these things out there. I love the idea of how you're calling the API. So I think one of our posts is clearly going to have to be about
Yeah.
Hey, here's how to use these templates, right? And the APIs are already there, right? And hey, here's how you have to set up your API key, right? Step one, go here. Step two, go here.
Exactly.
Step three, go there. And so we can work on those things. And are these apps and your Qlik Inscoot scripts, are those things that you're willing to share with others?
Yeah. One thing we could add is nothing I have done here has been invented or created from scratch. I mean, I have pulled off information from the internet and I pulled it together so I could build
Nice.
the ideal solution. So when we say we should do a post, this will be actually taking all that information into a single article, which will guide
Nice.
you through the process of making this happen. And of
Nice.
course, you've seen me using write back technology along the way. Uh,
Yep.
Again, this can be achieved without it. It's just that it makes it much more powerful and much more user friendly. Just because if you wanted to do, for instance, the task manager with an external spreadsheet, this would work. It's just that every time you would be changing the name of the application, or you will be moving one application to a space, um, it won't be accurate anymore because it won't
Right.
be updated accordingly, which is not the case when you do with everything within the application. At the end of the day, if you're working with just the ID, that works, but then the ID of an application doesn't ring a bell. I mean, you cannot read it. So it's possible to do it without it. It's
Yep.
just that having a write back technology, it's very powerful. It helps
Well,
us a lot.
and it's the combination of using that right back within Sense, because you're able to call the API to get the IDs,
Hmm.
right?
That-
If you're sitting in
yeah.
an Excel sheet, you don't have the application IDs. You would have to be going manually up to the screen and oh, okay, let me copy and paste this application ID, which would
Well,
be
you wouldn't know what I have done at the beginning. I use automation to provide that specific information into a external spreadsheet, a
yeah,
Google spreadsheet. And then I will be providing the information I needed back to the Qlik application to achieve the same. Because at first we didn't have the write by technology. We
yeah,
had some difficulty setting it up from a security perspective.
yeah,
And until we found out how to make it happen, I started using automation to achieve the same. It wasn't as powerful, but it worked. So
yeah,
it is
yep,
definitely possible. It's just
yeah.
a question of how much time you're ready to invest into this. What I'll be saying is when you have section access, when it is important for you to have section access and it takes time for you to manage section access,
Yep.
it's a no-brainer given the cost of these technology. Just buy any write back technology on the market to do your section access, and you will notice that you will be using it for much more than just this. We have it here, for instance, for master data management. We also have it like repository management where we need to provide information. We use it there. And of course, we have so many business use cases. This is just administration. We
Yeah.
use write back everywhere. And I'm not even talking about planning. We are using write back everywhere in our Qlik tenants. So again, if you are considering investing in write back, you definitely should. And if you are interested in making your platform easier to administrate, write back will help you get there if you're ready to, invest a bit of time to set up your own management application the way we did.
And I think the key
With
part
any
of
other
that,
idea that you might have as well.
yep,
I mean, we don't have done everything, but it's just what we thought would be good for radio.
yeah. Well, if you want to go ahead and stop sharing your screen and you and I can just kind of wrap up talking. I think
Yes.
what's important that you mentioned with write back is it takes some time, but here's the deal then. It's governed, right? Like that was the name of this Dork Cast, was governed, streamlined, but governed.
Yeah.
Because at any moment, somebody from compliance comes along and says, I need to know, and you fill in the blank for what they asked for, you've got everything documented, right? You've got that audit of here is exactly this, here's exactly what Dalton is allowed to see in all of the apps. And you've kind of, I tell people all the times, I'm good at finding patterns in things. So often I think people look at section access as it's a one-off. Well, in this app, I need this, and it's completely unique in the company. No, it's probably not, right? It's I need customers. Now I may pick a different group of customers, right? But you've looked at that, having done this over and over and over, and said, look, there's some templates. But the beautiful thing about the way you've platformed this and structured it is, if you say, no, this is unique. Today in this app, I need this dimension and this dimension as a combination that I haven't used anywhere yet. You can create that on the fly just from a visual standpoint. I don't have to then go in, okay, now, gosh, how am I going to code that section access? Because you generate that section access script on the fly, and you implement it that way, which is just awesome sauce, right? I think that's fantastic. You've tied those templates and those dimensions back to, here's my entire list of the customers or the customer groups, or the account groups or the PII needs or whatever. And you can create any combination of those that you need. Again, you had 5. If it needed to be 6 or 7, somebody simply changes the template and changes the form to be 7.
Exactly.
So really cool stuff, Henri. I can't wait to continue the conversation with you privately, but try to share these things that you've done out in Qlik community soon, so that others can have a look at it. If nothing else, like you said, you've pulled these things, I'm assuming, from some other Qlik experts that showed you one aspect. Some Qlik experts showed you APIs. Some Qlik experts showed you how to wrap section access, something. But I think it would be a good foundation for people to spark them. Oh my gosh, now that I know APIs and how to set up security for that and use an API key first, and then do this, and then do this, and then do that. Oh my gosh, now I have always had a dream of doing something completely different than what you've done. And I think you'd be okay that it just, they don't use any of this. It just sparks their imagination, even seeing the code and like, oh my gosh, well, why didn't we think of that? Right?
And the crazy thing, it's not new in a way that it hasn't been invented with Qlik Cloud. I mean, if you consider, for instance, the API that's being used for reloading applications, you could do the exact same thing in Qlik Sense Enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
You might think it's useless because we had the management console to do so, but I specifically remember having implemented that for a specific use case, which for the life of me, I cannot remember which one it was. But I remember having a piece of code which I used to trigger the reload of another application inside the script of a Qlik Sense Enterprise application. So it's not new. It's not new. It's something we could already do in the past. And it's also working in Qlik Cloud. That's just it. Knowing that your API, knowing what Qlik Cloud, basically, if this is available in the Qlik Cloud help,
Yep.
that means you can do it. If there is a post request next to reload API, that means you can trigger a reload.
Yep.
Okay, you have to find out how to do it. That's right. You have to set it up. It's not that
Yep.
easy, but it's possible.
Yes. Yep.
So you can do much more than what we've seen today. It's
I love it. And that,
what you need.
and what I've shared for years, because being an old software developer, and I'm old, by the way, we used to say, what's in your box? When we'd evaluate technology, what's in the box? What do I get in the box? And what we meant by that was, without hiring consultants to go add on. Qlik Sense has no box. It's an open API. Like the box is limitless. It just takes imagination, and sometimes just having that imagination sparked by something else.
It is true. It's hard to find the limit of the solution.
Yep.
It
And
happens sometimes when you might think, okay, we could open that or we could improve on this, but it goes so quick. I mean,
mhm.
every week we have some new stuff coming on inside the platform. Just look at this week. We've been looking at the new layout container. The
Mhm.
week before that, we've been talking about the new text object with the lines and everything. My dashboard, they start to spark anew in a
Yeah.
way that you can make it look so different. And now I'm like, that means I can do almost pixel perfect report inside an application, and I have reporting capabilities on top of that, which means that even without having a dedicated pixel perfect technology, I can already make pixel perfect report.
Yep.
Huh. And I don't know, I'm always amazed.
And then you end
All
up
the,
working all the weekends and till
yeah,
midnight
because
every day.
this yeah, that is a separate issue, but that is a problem as well. You're right about this.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
anyway, we could be talking about all the different stuff you can do, and I'm sure we will be discussing new stuff in the future.
Yep.
Next on the
Nice.
roadmap for me is reporting, turning the Qlik Cloud platform into a service platform for reporting and not just analytics. And I intend to go deep on this because I am a finance guy. Reporting is my background,
No way.
obviously.
No way.
So
Nice.
yeah, very interested in looking at this now. This is the next thing we will be investigating with the cloud. Obviously, migration of all applications and everything will be there, but
Nice.
it's a pleasure, and I'm sure that the migration will go as smoothly as planned, and everything will be fine. Everybody will be happy. I'm very confident about the future of the platform at Radio because of all we've discussed today.
Nice. Nice. And I am as well. It's so fun to see. You know,
Mm.
I think like me, you're probably wishing if those Qlik Cloud developers could just create that eighth day of the week, I could do so much more with with all the other things they keep giving us.
Yeah,
Um,
I should mention we worked on what I have presented to you today. So most of the work has been done by me in terms of app developments. The
mhm.
template has been done by someone within my team, Corentin Jouan. We said, okay, what you want to do is it's just great. We need to automate the flow once the application is in place, and that's where
Right.
he came with this template, and he took my bits of code
Yep.
and put it together with include function and everything, and said, okay, now we have a template. Use that for the development of your applications.
I dig
And
it.
so at the end of the day, it's a two man's job. It's not that many people.
No, yeah, it's beautiful. That's the neat story. Part of it
Mm.
is that you really did. You came from finance out of necessity. You did the things that were needed. You didn't have a box limiting you because with the open APIs, once you did that,
Mm.
but by thinking of this has got to be, we got to streamline this because as we're
Yeah.
decentralizing everything, um, the beautiful thing about data literacy is that as more people are being enabled with data, that's a beautiful thing. The morale goes up, their feeling of empowerment goes up. They
Mm.
understand how to argue with data and say, no, but based on my knowledge, here's why this instead. That's a beautiful thing. It's a hard thing for IT. You're like, whoa, 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 whoa. How about I just generate this green bar paper and you copy that to as many people as you need to, right? Because handling all those users and then the roles. The beautiful thing is, well, they're a user or they're a super user. We've always had that thought process. Now it's okay, but a super user can also do these other things. And now, they got to be a super user above that super user that can also do security for the other super users. And then they can, and then they're just designers. Well, now they're going to be data modelers. Well, now they're going to be architects, and the roles just go on indefinitely. And you've laid out a
Exactly.
foundation. You've laid out the
You
foundation
know,
for all that.
I scared I'm sorry for the expression, but I scared the shit out of the IT department. Most of the guys there, they didn't understand a thing about what I was doing because
Yeah.
they didn't know about the Qlik world. And
Yep.
I was going very quick with the research, the R&D, and it's like I found something, I implemented it. I didn't go through
Right.
feasibility test or anything. It's just okay. We need to go
Yep.
forward, and I was alone working on that at some point. So yeah, it was a problem, but
Yeah.
they've come around. They've come around, and now we work together. And I would even mention that the thing is, if you make them customer of your platform, they will
Yep.
they will come around and understand the power of the solution and why you be doing things the way you do.
Nice.
So yeah,
And
this
so your
happened.
solution actually lets IT be a user of the solution.
Yeah, it's
Which
it's
is
crazy.
awesome.
Everybody is using Qlik,
Yep.
but IT. So we were like, okay, there is something to be done here, and we are currently changing that. And this changed the relationship drastically
Nice.
because they now understand what it does, and they have like really good use cases as well. So they come to you and say, okay, can you extract the data, transfer the data, do the dashboard from these and these applications? Of course we can. Can we do some machine learning on top of that? Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
It's actually not that hard because everything is available inside the platform. And when you show them what's available, how this works, and how easy it is to set it up, they start looking at this very differently. And instead of calling you the crazy guy who does things inaccurately, for the lack of better words, you start becoming their friends as well, and they start seeing the value of your profile, despite the fact that you're not IT and you come from finance.
Yeah,
So things are changing even in the IT world. And
it's changing rapidly, and that's if it's any consolation to you, IT groups around the world and most other companies are scared out of their brain right now anyway.
Yeah.
As long as I was in IT, it was centralized. We didn't call it centralized. It was just how things were done. That was the process. You stood in line, you filled out a requirements document. IT would do it when they had time or resources. And as soon as it was done, it was done. And then any change to that was a change document that you had to then go back through the whole process. And I've done videos and presentation at conferences. I called that the cycle of doom. It was a never-ending process. So just even moving from a centralized to a decentralized world like Qlik Sense was, and Qlik Sense Enterprise on-prem handled that's fairly recent, right? And so you've got people in IT that this is the process. This is what I learned in school is the process. I've got a textbook that says this is the process. We changed the game, and now we're changing. And then before they could really wrap their head around it, Qlik Cloud kind of changes the game and makes some of that even easier. Because with data literacy, things are blowing up. In that, the neat thing about I think all of that is that you are now partners with IT versus being an enemy of IT. And so while they were scared, you help them understand that they can actually implement governance in a flexible, easy way, still have their compliance, still have everything documented, but it's easier and it helps us get it faster, which is just phenomenal. And it's and not only doing all that, you're doing it while doing a migration, right? And so it's the worst of all possible worlds from an IT guy. They're like, whoa, we're going to change one thing at a time. It's okay, we're changing a process. More people are using it. I need more roles. It's more decentralized. And oh, by the way, we're going to change our platform from on-prem to the cloud. And now how do I do this? There's a whole lot to that. So Henri, I can't thank you enough for just reaching out to me to begin with and saying, I'll take the time to just show you what I've done. The finance stuff, once you've got some fake data, we're doing this again, buddy. I'm going to hold you to it.
We could be doing this. It's just that we need to have something where it could be showing, false data, because
Right,
obviously
yeah.
I'm not going to show the
No,
financial
no, no. I
statement.
don't want to see your company's financials and
Yeah,
uh,
yeah,
but
but
yeah, so once
yeah,
there's fake data, we'll do this again
but
because I want to
we
see the
are.
finance stuff.
If, if I may, we are considering participating to Qlik Connect with a
Mhm.
demonstration of both what we've done with the
Nice.
migration and the governance applications, again, for the people who will be there. And we are also considering doing a finance demo, so set of applications
Right.
demonstrating everything we have done to set up a service platform for finance inside
Yes.
the Qlik environment. It's a service platform. It's not just data and analytics. It's an
Right.
actual service platform.
Yeah.
So we want to show this at Qlik Connect, and I hope I will make the cut when applying to the sessions. And if we manage to do so, you will see me there. And obviously, I will set up something that we can then reuse also for a
Nice.
new Qlik Cast as well. This
Fan-
time dedicated to finance business use cases.
Fantastic. And
Yeah.
so for you, Henri, I'm going to say this because I know you're later in the day than I am. Bonsoir. That's one of my limitations in French is very few words, but I do know bonsoir. And for the rest of you, as always, I hope that you have a great day.